delay in there for some reason.
There it is.
Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Padded Room. Today we have with us PC Hatter, for once not a horror or zombie writer. Very interesting. We have Jack Birthday Childress. We have
Whoop, whoop.
our UK correspondent, Ricky Fleet, and my editor, Doc Fry. Yeah.
What is up, everybody?
Today,
No.
to give this some semblance of structure, we're going to talk about murder.
Is that murder if we don't abide by the structure, or murder as a topic,
That'd be the topic.
or a bit
I
of
sense.
both? Interesting one. This is going to get spicy.
You already stumped us, man. What the hell's up with that, Ricky?
I'm getting murdered.
All right, check this out. I was fortunate enough to meet the one and only PC Hatter through a separate group and was gifted multiple books from a series, which I look at their whodunits. You know, who was the killer? Who did this? Why did they do it? And that's not really what I'm known for. Obviously, I'm known for horror and zombies, and that's what I love to
Really?
read and listen to and everything else. But I do love me a good whodunit. So I was curious because they always say don't judge a book by its cover. Well, I saw this and went,
Brilliant.
I need to know what's going on in here. There's stuff going on that Jack needs to know about. So I hit PC up, and sure enough, I wound up with an audiobook. This thing starts off with smooth jazz just to set the tone. And then it goes into a story of murder and lies and just family issues, and frickin' so much crap goes down. And as a good private eye always does, they get themselves into shitty situations. It's just kind of what they do. And PC made me remember that I actually like more than just zombies and horror. I like other types of writing too. Lady, where did this come from? Where did this come from?
Well, the books are parodies, and they're all hard-boiled mysteries. And of course, when I called them poach parodies, scrambled or fried just didn't sound right. And I happen to love, Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer, Raymond Chandler's Philip Marlowe, all the Dashiell Hammett books, and a lot of times I will go to them for inspiration on something. And I was explaining to Jeff Thompson about going to different conventions, and I started out in sci-fi, and I really didn't have anything specific for the conventions we were going to. And so I started reading Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer again, and all of a sudden I started thinking, well, what if Mike Hammer is all of a sudden a tiger, and instead of hammer we call him wrench? And it just snowballed into 25 books.
Dang, there's
Just
that
a
many?
couple.
Good for
Just
you.
a couple.
Yeah. I was heading for burnout. By the time I got to the last few, I had to take a break. I'm still taking a break. But then I keep thinking, oh, well, what if I do this? And what if I do that? And hold off. Take a breather.
That's the thing. Sometimes when you're having a bit of a hiatus, something clicks, and then a whole new story, just crops up. I think that's one of the most important parts of writing, that I never used to be able to put myself in the mood of I've got to stop. Now I do, and some of the other stuff that comes up is quite interesting. So, 25, that's phenomenal. Well done.
Yeah. In fact, this is,
Hey
really.
guys.
Hello.
Hello, Jack's mom.
Yeah, I'll say hello back.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. Squaring them up. Okay, it's my birthday. My aunt just showed up.
Ah.
So, this is how she rolls. So now y'all know where
Now
I
we got
get it.
6 on the podcast.
So, yeah.
Mm.
So, and Ricky, no, she's not available.
What?
Just so you know.
What you got to do me like that?
I
Huh?
is what it is, man.
Come
Look,
on. We're supposed to be
Unfortunately,
buds.
her man's a biker. What we gonna do?
Yeah, okay, fair point.
old me would have been available, but not the new me.
You gotta go now.
And I love you. Happy birthday. I'll let you finish your podcast.
Yep, now that I'm thoroughly embarrassed.
But happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
So what's it like being 30? The big 30?
Yeah, the big
For the
3-0.
second time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Feels good. I
that's
feel more
cold.
barrel, more me.
Yeah.
You're only
Yeah.
30? You're just a baby.
Yeah.
He's only.
Yeah, 47.
Still a baby.
Yeah, you still don't look it.
Yep.
I like hearing that. People, I remember when I was in my 20s and my early 30s, I hated hearing that. Drove me nuts. Pissed me off more than anything in the world. But now that I'm damn near 50, hearing that, fuck yeah, bring it.
Yeah.
Take it all day.
Only
Still
7
a
more
young
years to
pup
go
to
for
me.
me.
You're still a young pup to me. I turned 61 in about 3 weeks.
You still my big cuddly bear. That's all I know.
And on that note, Doc,
Yes.
why don't you tell us about you?
Oh, about me. Let's see. I'm a professor at UC Denver, and I teach law courses. And I'm also a part-time barista at Starbucks. Hey, I get free coffee. Come on.
Yeah, that's fair
As much
enough.
as I want. And the benefits are great because you get to get a bag of coffee every week.
Oh, hell.
Yeah. And I have been around a long time, heap longer than Jack. I'm half Australian, so I'm a dual citizenship, and I've lived both here and in Oz. And I've done
Where in
it.
Oz?
In the bush, I actually have a cattle station in the bush in the Northern Territory, about 240K from Alice Springs.
Wow,
Brilliant.
that's the middle of nowhere.
Well,
Yeah,
here's a question for you.
it
Do you have a
borders on the
pet
spy
spider that you
station.
can ride?
Do I have a pet what?
A pet spider that you can ride? Because Australia is known for some of the
Oh, I know.
craziest freaking things.
Yeah, they're monstrous big. They
Yeah.
carry off like small adults.
Yes, I know. No, I actually don't. I am petrified of spiders. As long as they stay outside, that's cool. And Oz has the largest amount of the deadliest spiders and snakes in the world.
Mhm.
I'm far more worried about the death adders than I am of the huntsman. Yeah, it's brilliant out there. You learn in the middle of summer in 120-degree heat to wander around in big old heavy, really thick boots all the time. It's just heaps safer. But it's an absolutely brilliant place. I love it. I haven't been able to go home in years because of the pandemic.
That's a long flight too.
Yeah, bloody long. And of course, they have just opened it up, and you really can't get back. So they're like, yeah, maybe later in the year. They want real tourist dollars. They don't want people like me that actually belong there. So, and that's fine. I mean, I'm still teaching, and I teach all year round. So I've got about another year before I retire from that. And in the meantime, I edit Jeff's books, and I beta read and make suggestions on Scott's Baker's books, and
All right. Well, when you first met Jeffy, which is what I
Yep.
like to call him, and Scotty, which I like to call him, and you got the chance, to go read their works. How did you feel going through their first books? Like you're literally just meeting their writings right now. What was that like?
Um, it was it was different. I'd switched over from all of the survivalist sort of books to zombies because I've been a zombie freak long. Oh, sorry about that. And I'm not even sure which one is ringing. Oh, I don't have to worry about that. Kill it.
Mm.
Long before Walking Dead and all that came along. I mean, I remember going to see the original Night of the Living Dead as a uni student and saying, this is really cool, except for that middle 25 minutes where they have to throw in all that social stuff. And, it was like, yeah, this is really boring right here. But it was always a great place to go get popcorn. But I loved reading their writings. And I felt that there could be some editing help. And so I've been doing that ever since. And
Yeah, I started out with like half a dozen beta readers, and Doc was pretty much the only one who gave me good suggestions. Everybody else was just like, "Oh, I love it. It was great." Okay.
Yeah.
Anything
Doc
else?
Doc kicked you in the nuts.
Well, mostly.
no, I loved his work, but he needed editing and continuity and someone. And it's like, you understand, Jeff, this was true 10 and 15 years ago, but not anymore. It- it-
Well,
you know,
mainly the advice is kill more zombies,
yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, make
which is
it
always good
bloodier.
advice. Which is
Yeah.
always good advice.
You can't go wrong with that.
Good beta readers
Yeah.
are hard to find.
Yeah, let's kill a
Oh,
few
yeah, they
more.
are. Yeah, they
Yeah.
are.
You
Well,
Oh,
hey,
no,
I'll just throw it out there now. I am available to do so. I have finally done my first one. So now that I know how it works, I am totally on board with doing it.
Did you just say, "Oh, I love it," or did you give?
I love it.
Yes, you got to give constructive
No.
feedback.
Actually, I don't. I found plenty of oopses and whatnot along the way through the series that I was making my way through. And yeah, there were a few oopses and bumps along the way. And I caught every damn one of them. Well, except for
That's
one.
what we need, though.
Jamie Gold has a beta reader worksheet that is kind of it's a very good what would you call it?
Guide,
Prompt.
cheat sheet.
Yeah, a guide, and it's only like one or two sheets long, but it's if you're a beta reader who's doesn't really understand what beta reading is, it's a definite help.
Yeah, like the one that I did, you'd have to read the chapter. You'd have to go through the chapter, and then at the bottom of it, you get a small little questionnaire, and you check and click on different things, depending on that, and then you had the box for actual comments and pointing out stuff you had seen, and then you send it, and it goes back to them so they can look at it and review it later. Like I said, it was a real simple process. I don't see why anybody wouldn't want to beta read. Hell, we're getting to see the book before the book comes out.
Hi, Angel.
Angel
Good
says
day,
hello,
Angel.
and so does
Hi,
Tim
Tim.
Brooks.
Tim too. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, what comes out of our head originally sounds good to us. It doesn't necessarily translate, though. So
Yeah.
we need somebody to say, "Hey,
This doesn't work. Yeah. And I'm not afraid to say it because I've said it to you multiple times. Like, no.
yeah,
And multiple people have. You could say one thing, and you'll get 5 different reactions.
yeah."
Um,
Yeah, what
Yeah.
I found what what the biggest qualification is the person needs to respect you enough to tell the truth
Mhm.
Yeah.
and like you enough to not be an asshole about it. Because you get there are those
It's truth.
who yeah their only goal is to rip people apart.
Yeah.
I belong to some like screenwriting sites and stuff like that, and you put the screenplay out there, and people just shred it, and they're vicious about it. That doesn't help anybody.
Mhm.
No, it's picking whether it's truth or whether it's just some deficiency in their own life that's causing them to do it. You know,
Mhm.
you need to trust the opinion. You know, the social media, it's given us a lot more connection with other people, but in some ways, it's a horrible, toxic place.
And sometimes because it's written, some people don't realize what they write because you don't have the visual cues or you don't hear the tone of their voice. It can come off very different than what the person means.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
yeah,
know I don't sugarcoat stuff when I see it. And I usually will, even warn people. It's like I when it comes to tact, I never received any. I missed that. So I will be like a bulldozer. I'm sorry. Make sure you have Kleenex. It's not intended, but I will tell you what I see and you know what something comes off like to
Mhm.
me. Um, and some people are like, "Yay, I love it," and other people are like, "Oh my gosh, you're just the absolute worst person ever." It's like, sorry.
yeah. It's funny. I mean, I don't mind getting it. I don't like giving it. I'm like a sugar coated donut. Everything's sugar coated with me. I don't want. I won't. I'd rather just not answer than give something
Mm.
negative. It's just
Well, it's that old expression: if you can't say something nice, don't
yeah,
say nothing at all.
yeah,
You know,
But
yeah.
if
it's
you're in
like,
a group that you're looking for the flaws to fix them, why are you having a hissy fit?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't be able to. So that's one of my major. Yeah,
I'm with
There's
him
I
on that
mean
one because I'm in the
there's
same boat. I try to give the negative where the negative is, but so often I find myself looking at a book that I just listened to or read and going, "Yeah, I might have wanted to tweak that," but I said, "But that's really not my call because this was from this person's mind, from their heart, from their soul, and I really enjoyed it. Aside from this one little small thing." And I'm like, usually just like, let it go. And just, I let it go. I just don't worry about it. It's like, it's my
yeah. I
fault.
mean, when I was teaching and we had to give feedback, like I forget the exact name, but it's basically just like a poo sandwich. You know, you give a nice slice of wholesome bread, and then you give the bad bit, and then you like take another slice of
Yeah.
lovely wholesome bread, and you know that was brilliant, but this wasn't. But that well done, everything. Blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Go forward. When I was paid to do it, it's different. When I've been asked to do it, I,
Yeah.
I fold like
I
a
I
Japanese
like
old
it.
woman.
I liken it this way. Every one of us, I'm sure, has met those people that all they do is bitch.
Yeah,
That's it. That's all they do. They never come up with anything constructive. They just say, "Oh, this sucks. This doesn't work. You're an idiot," and they never offer any kind of constructive ideas to
yeah,
go along with it. That's what a bad beta reader does.
Mm-hmm.
They just say you suck, and that's the end of it. Why would we listen to them?
and after the seventh or eighth book, you're starting to think maybe I won't send another one to this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't take you
Yeah.
that.
Like, yeah, I
You know,
make books deep.
Yeah. I'm actually helping out a guy who is dyslexic, and on his first book, and he, of course, with dyslexia, you have a lot of different things, and it's so hard not to say, okay, you need to fix this, and this. Me having all my experience, and it's like, okay, baby steps, baby steps. And
Yeah.
and the thing is, he needs to learn the mechanics, but his mind, his imagination is absolutely wonderful, and he just needs to fix the mechanics, and he's good to go.
Well, hey, if you can help him do that, I am totally on board.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've mentored a couple of people, and I keep doing it because I wish somebody had done it for me when I started out. Um, but you can't if you're trying to help somebody, you can't be a dick about it. You
Right.
can't. You've
Yeah.
gotta do the shit sandwich. You
I
gotta.
didn't put it in quite such colourful terms, but yeah, that's what we
I
used
was
to.
thinking
Yeah, but
soup
that's me.
Well,
sandwich.
you've got to
Maybe
be constructive when you take them, when you rip them apart. Like,
Mhm.
okay, this doesn't work. Here's why, but this would make it.
Mhm.
This would reshape it so it'll work great,
Mhm.
or something like that. And I mean, so far everyone's taken my what I hope is constructive criticism pretty well. I mean, there are a couple of other authors who send me stuff, and it's like, yep, you forgot about this, and they're like, oh yeah, and I've talked about it before in other books. I'm like, yeah, you need to add it in, even if it's just a paragraph or something, so that you also have continuity going on. And that's one of the biggest problems, is that I see writers are just writing, they have all these great ideas pouring out, and it's like, no, where's your continuity of your story, or back to other stories you've written about the same characters? And I find sometimes, at one point, you were producing them a bit slower, Jeff. So, and I read, I was reading Scott's In Betwixt, and I was reading Millie's In Betwixt, and a couple, and then we did Cheerleader. I think it's right at that time when you did Cheerleader, and I was going through that. And it was like, I got to go back and start at the beginning of your series and speed read it through so I can make sure the flow, the characters are where they're supposed to be and alive and doing, making sure that they're
Yeah.
as they should be, or as good as they should be. And I'll just go back and speak. And same thing with Scott's Alyssa. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had to go back and reread the first one, and because then he brought in Paul, who's her ex, and it's like, no, I want more. That one's a little bit more in the minute of the apocalypse happening as it happens, and it's like, no, I want more there, but I got to make sure everything he said in it was correct to what she had alluded to, or what he had alluded to in the Alyssa books. And it's, I don't know how many beta readers will actually go back and take a look for continuity across the series, but it really is important, because people will trash you for that. It's like, no, that guy's still alive. You can't have him dead now,
Yeah.
or vice
I
versa.
Well,
I'm
you've been reading my stuff for 4 years now, and yeah, it's 4 years. I put out, you're never ready for a zombie apocalypse. That was 2018.
Oh, okay, yep.
So 4 years. Um, and I was just thinking about this today, as a matter of fact. When I finish this latest one, it'll be 750,000 words
Wow.
for the series so far. I mean, it's a lot to read. It's even more to write, because the stuff that ends up on the page isn't everything that goes through my head.
Yeah.
I will have. I'm constantly doing this. I will come up with these threads to other storylines that I thought about and maybe made some notes about, but never actually wrote. So I'd have to go back to the books and go, okay, I didn't do that. All right.
Yeah, it's hard
Well,
enough for us to keep up with continuity when we're sort of 8 deep in a series. It's
Yeah.
But we were talking about murder, Jeff.
Yes, murder. Not murder in and of itself necessarily, but just death,
So we're not admitting to past
killing,
crimes here.
allegedly.
Alleged past crimes. Sorry.
Oh, speaking of
Anything.
which, I haven't heard from Scott Baker today. So
You won't be
just
hearing from him
Sam, Jeff.
again.
No, he's doing. Today or yesterday was his release day for the latest Nurse Alyssa book. So he's.
Was it? Well, see,
They-
I have already read it, so I wouldn't even follow when it's being released because I had some suggestions that had to be, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't think about those." I'm like, "Yeah, you got to fix this, dude." But yeah, oh, okay.
So now, hey,
And he
JC,
was on the
go
air
ahead.
all like last night, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's what he's doing. He's all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah.
He was on Reading Zombie. He was on
Yeah,
The Animated Writers. He's all over the place. He's
Busy man.
And to
doing
me,
that-
that's how
doing that
y'all do
promo
it, man.
stuff.
You've got to get everywhere. You've got to make the footprint bigger than Bigfoot. I mean, like just straight up swell this thing up and get out there and slam that footprint down. Because
ultimately, what we're doing is we're selling our names.
mhm.
I mean, one book, if that's all you have, that's all you're selling is that one book. If you've written a bunch of them, you pretty much you've got to get name recognition going.
Yep.
Because that's what, Stephen King, you buy a Stephen King book because it's Stephen King.
Mhm.
You don't
Yeah.
necessarily even read the back blurb to see what it's about.
it's true.
So, there are certain authors that you see their name, okay, I want that.
Yeah, Stephen King is one of those people, he can publish his grocery list and they buy it.
Dean Koontz.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's
Dean
right there
Koontz.
behind him.
And
I
you-
lost
gotta
interest
say-
in Dean Koontz. I used to read all of his stuff, and
He was my favorite as a kid growing up.
Mm.
And I mean, Stephen King was like sprinkled in there, obviously. I mean, I've read tons of Stephen King, but I always liked Koontz a little better because Koontz was more straight to the point.
Mhm.
He didn't
Yeah.
spend a paragraph and a half explaining one thing. Like Koontz kind of kept the action flowing, which is why I love the indie author, because most of you guys, y'all keep it firing. You keep going. You'll keep the energy alive. Keep everything happening. You don't feel like you need to spend a half of a chapter explaining to me why doorknob has a certain face on it. We don't care.
Yeah.
And I find
ultimately,
that
no.
amazing.
Kill more zombies.
Yeah. No more zombies. That's right, damn it. More death.
Well,
So
hey,
let's
Or
Let's-
murder. Let's murder.
murder.
There's
Let's-
somebody in your series I'd love to murder right now, but you know that already.
Well, yeah, they will be dying.
Good, because there's
Not
one
necessarily the way you want them to, but they will be dying.
Ooh.
there's one there's well, I'll just be crude. There's one bitch in there that I really want to get rid of, and you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Oh, I do.
Because I keep saying, we got to kill her off.
look, if you're a character in a book and the editor for the book hates you, you're pretty much screwed.
Toast.
Well, I created that character specifically so I could kill her off.
Good, because she deserves it a long time ago, and now she's, it's just like,
Well,
there
now-
aren't
now
many
that
in your
is-
series that I really love, and I would hate you for killing off. I made
Yeah.
Scott promise he wouldn't kill off the cat.
Well, yeah, as we discussed
Yeah.
in the last episode, you can't kill dogs, you can't kill cats.
That's it. You
Those are
can't.
just- you
Yeah,
can't
we've
do
all
it.
been warned off of that.
That's the biggest issue I have with Jurassic Park 3. The poor freaking dog. When the T-Rex raises up at the window with the freaking doghouse hanging from its freaking mouth, and it
That one
chomp.
chick needs to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Tim,
hated
Tim
that.
agrees with you that one chick needs to go. Yes, she does.
But the fact that you can write a character that is so viscerally despised, that's a skill all in itself. I've got my Debbie in my Hellspawn books. Everybody hates her. I'm gonna keep her going as long as possible because
Well,
she's
that's a
such
fun
a
question.
disgusting creature.
I don't know. Do I have
That's a
any-
fun question. How the hell do you
do I have
guys
any
do that?
characters
How
that
do
everybody
y'all
wants
write a
dead?
character like that? Because I know you. I know you. You're the sweetest people in the freaking world. I would hug every last one of you. How do you write these vicious, evil characters?
Well, we're the sweetest people in the world because we get to vent all our frustrations onto the page.
Yeah.
We get to put people in wood chippers.
Yep. That was
I have a weird habit of ending up doing side characters that people tend to be they focus on. For some reason, they wind up being memorable, and they're only in a page of the book.
but that's good.
Mhm.
That is good.
Scarlet Crop and Lamar Hurst. I have this character called Minsk. He's a cottonmouth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can
for
I just ask what that is?
It's a snake.
It's a
Oh, okay.
black
Yeah,
snake.
yeah.
When it opens up its mouth, it's all white.
Right.
Yeah, gotcha. I thought it was no.
But he's all running around with clothes on and shit.
Yeah. And the snakes in my world all have arms. They don't have any legs.
Okay.
Okay.
Brilliant.
See what I said when I said I fell in love with it?
Hey, it's your world. Make it what you want.
Yeah,
to, man.
absolutely. That sounds brilliant.
And my husband absolutely loves Minsk. And it's like, well, why? He's a side character, but he's so cool. It's like one of the they were talking about in this particular world, because there's several different species. They have what I call processing plants. So when you die, you go to the corner, and then you go to the processing plants and wind up on the deli special.
Very mega
And,
one.
What a moccasin.
In Lamar Curse,
Tastes like
the
chicken.
main character and Minsk are discussing, because the main character is a insectivore and thinks it's absolutely gross that Minsk, has eaten gerbil when that happens to be one of their clients.
It's what's for dinner.
Would carnivores
I'm
be
just saying.
disturbed? Yeah, he's worried about what's in his kibble. The main character asks Minsk, would carnivores be a little disturbed if they start putting names on the packages? And Minsk goes, no, they only do that with the famous, they don't only do that with the famous people because they can get more money. That's why I like going to Delmonico's in New York. They only serve the famous people.
Oh,
I love it. I love it.
Brilliant.
They said, and all of these are straight up whodunits. There's a murder, and where did he come from? Again, I think did I ask you this earlier? I may have. If I did, I'm sorry about that. But freaking Lucius Anorak, that guy.
When I was going through the Raymond Chandler books and trying to figure out, okay, who is the main character? What species is it? I kept, weirdly enough, I had a couple of friends who kept popping up in my mind, and it's called a fursona, which is if you could be an animal, what would you like to be? And their fursona are both huskies. So I just kept getting this husky in my mind. And now when Raymond Chandler was alive and writing, homosexuality was illegal, for one. It was considered a mental disease.
Mm-hmm.
So he couldn't come out. I didn't realize until I started rereading the books and I started asking questions. It's like, well, wait a minute, things are kind of off here. And I didn't know about the rumors of him being gay at the time.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, Lucius Anorak has to be gay, for one. And I didn't do it overtly or anything like that. In fact, I think I explained in one of the books where he doesn't advertise because then he would be getting it from both sides. People trying to manipulate him, and so he just does what he does. And I kind of did that as a nod to Raymond Chandler because, you know, he was living in a time when it was considered wrong, and that had to have sucked. But you can tell as you read his stories that something, you know, that things were off. And in some of the later books, you can tell that either his editor or somebody at the company basically, you know, said, you must do this, because there's a couple of chapters that make absolutely no sense. He couldn't write a sex scene to save my life. And I'm a person who can't write a sex scene to save my life. I totally understand that. Worse. So that's kind of how that character kind of came about and evolved. We sibling I had to do a little bit of backstory in there to have everything make sense because of his motivation.
And the thing about Chandler is he doesn't really explain a lot of character stuff. He just says, this is the way it is, and leaves it at that. He doesn't, there isn't the, paragraph and a half discussing a doorknob. He'll tell you, this is the kind of house it is. It's got, this kind of bush out front. Let's go. That's it. He'll give a brief, 2-sentence description of the person. That's the last you hear of it.
Now, Ricky, have you ever thought about doing a whodunit?
I don't think I've got the skill, to be honest with you, Jack. Being able to, if you read my stuff, it's just action. I write what if they've made decent movies these days, which they don't seem to want to do anymore. But
the Avengers movies were awesome. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. I mean, after 37 MCU movies, it gets a little bit stale. I know there's only about 20, but no, I love watching. I enjoy reading some of it. I don't read much of it because I only read horror nowadays. But it's a completely different skill set to what I have in laying, the clues within the writing that you sort of then go back 5 chapters and you think, that was what that was for. Whereas I'm like, that city got wiped out, and then this city gets wiped out, and then they go there and they wipe that city out. And I don't know much. I only read horror now. It's very, like I say, it's very much maybe I will in the future if something ever sort of takes my fancy like that. But I don't think I've got the skill to weave a compelling. This person's dead. Here's 10 people. Let's have a little look around at these people, and why did they say that? And why has he gone there? And she said this. And I just don't think I've got the depth to be able to do that. To be honest.
Well, PC, I think that's a nod to you because this guy right here can write his ass off. I am serious right now. He can write his ass off. So, what you've done?
I've always wanted to write a mystery. I've just never been able to figure out how to get to the whodunit part. How to do that without
I may have found us a sensei.
I'd give it away in chapter 2 without even thinking about it.
I'd telegraph the shit out of it.
Exactly.
Well, you got to have your red herrings. You've got to have just little little things. Now I have to admit I don't like the mysteries where, it was a button in the corner and you had, half a sentence mention. Those drive me absolutely nuts. And personally, I don't think those. Well, never mind. But when you have somebody asking a bunch of questions, paying attention, looking around, um, just picking up things. You might have a couple of red herrings. The person goes off on a red herring, finds out it's wrong, then comes back. And it's detective work is a series of, logical steps. And yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. And I mean, I'm lucky with the parodies. A lot of that has already been done for me.
Yes.
If I
Well,
had,
even Raymond Chandler, who was a master at it,
Mhm.
with the Big Sleep, he was asked who killed the chauffeur. He didn't know.
yeah, he got confused.
That's when you're a good writer if you don't even know yourself.
Yeah. And classing dead ends. He's right.
Mhm.
Tim is right.
So have you got a law enforcement background in terms of, the sort of structure of the detective side of things, or is it just questioning and digging and digging and digging in general to find the answer?
It depends on your character. If you have a detective, of course, then you'd want to have at least an idea. But if you're doing a character that, say, is the town gossip, you don't really need that. He or she might annoy the local cops, but if you're just talking to people and finding out stuff, there's. I like hard-boiled mysteries. I also like cozy mysteries, and I have to admit there are some cozy mysteries that you just kind of look and go, "What? What?"
Okay, now what's
And that they're
now,
like
you're gonna have to
nowhere near
explain.
I
reality.
was just going to say that, Jack.
You're gonna
What's
have
the
to you have to explain those differences right there, because I think you just lost at least half of us.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
difference?
There's different types of mysteries. There's your hard-boiled mysteries, which the parodies are based on. A cozy mystery is
Miss
kind of like
Marple.
an Agatha Christie or a
No, it's light and sweet
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
It's
it,
what is
Would
sometimes there's
Clue
ghosts
count
in
the
it,
movie?
or they have maybe it's some old granny on the porch knitting as the main character. It's more of into relationships more than actually doing the clues, the murder, and personally, my favorite cozies are not the people who are cops or related to cops. My favorite ones are little old ladies who are gossiping, or maybe one that has a hokey silliness to it, like the one of the characters is a ghost and is helping out the the main character. Just silly things that aren't real, because obviously if someone stumbles across some of these clues or finds out who's what, that person's never going to get prosecuted because they've already messed up the chain of evidence. So um, they're more fun, and relationship based. Whereas a hard boiled or a thriller or something a little more realistic, I don't know, serial killers, whatnot. That's more you'd want to stick more to reality and know um, what to look out for. And maybe even read up on how to do chain of evidence, etc. Um, So
Yeah, that makes sense.
So now, have you thought about doing a zombie book?
me,
Yeah.
not really, but I think you saw my post this morning of deer.
Mm-hmm. That one was actually quite interesting. Oh, and by the way, I'm the one that approved that. Ha ha, admin power.
And what a lot of people don't know is deer will actually eat baby birds. And the
And I
one
looked
thing
it
they
up.
love
She's
more
not
than
lying.
baby birds is corpse fingers.
Okay.
Yeah, right here, they be looking at like some fish sticks. That's about
Mhm.
all they getting right here.
Yeah. And so it's like if I were to write a zombie book, I would have it would be more along the line of Nature's Cleanup Crew.
Yes, fair enough.
That works.
All right, so here's my thing: crime scene investigations. Since we're on the subject of murder, and we've talked about plenty of murder, let's get some more specific on it. How the hell did we create the dust that we're able to put down to see blood trails? Who knows how to answer that one?
Well, a lot of the things were um, invented for something else.
Mhm.
And it was just discovered that, oh, wow, this works. A lot of it was trial and error, like fingerprints. Certain certain fingerprint powders work better than others under certain conditions. Um, yeah, it's basically it's science. It's all trial and error. Somebody gets a theory, they go, oh, that might work. Let's try this. I was just watching a forensic files yesterday um, about an instrument they used, which was designed for the um, the Board of Health to test food safety, and they used it to extract blood from a rock.
Okay.
It
Really?
just yeah,
That's
it just
always been a long time thing about you can't get blood from a rock.
well you
Now you
can if there's
can.
blood all over it.
Mhm.
Yeah, somebody used it to bludgeon this woman to death, and like 30 years later, they're like, oh, let's try this. And they do, and they get
Mhm.
all sorts of DNA. They got like 40 times the amount of DNA they needed
Yeah.
from using this technique. And it was,
Yeah,
So this was
the
like cold
history
case stuff
behind
then.
this. Oh, the history
Sorry.
behind the science
see you,
is
Tim.
amazing.
Take
Mhm.
care, Ted. Yeah, it's fascinating. You know, like with the cold case things. Obviously, going back to the cold cases and applying the techniques that we've got now. You know, like getting blood from a stone 30 years later. That's absolutely mental. Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Well, while we're on that subject, though, the CSI shows and those
If they
things
had
are
all those
so
gadgets, they'd bankrupted the everything.
well. It's not just that. You have these crime scene investigators showing up to a crime scene, dressed all fashionably. The women are all sexy.
Hmm.
It's the reality is you're in a white suit with a hoodie and goggles on and
Yeah.
Booties.
footies and yeah, it's the most unsexy costume in the world, but that's reality. And it
Depends on what
has
you're
to be
into, Jeff.
well, and it has to be that
Hey,
way. It has to be that way so they're not contaminating the crime scene.
Yeah, you'd be leaving hairs and all sorts everywhere, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah,
And you
everywhere.
don't pick up the evidence and shake it.
No,
No.
No, but they do that in every show.
I know. Well, it's just
I've
like
thank God I don't watch those shows.
the only show that I need to watch is NCIS with Abby. Abby is a legend.
and
I
now she's
watch
gone.
sports.
Yeah, but
Um,
she's been gone for a while. Let's think about that.
Yeah, she's been gone for like 3, 4 years.
Is she?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's gone. She
From the
quit.
series? Yeah, I haven't seen any of the recent ones, I must admit. So that's a
Yeah,
shame.
she
I'm
she
not
she
going to watch them
quit because
now.
she didn't get along with Mark Harmon.
Was he, oh, God. Gibbs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that Gibbs?
Gibbs.
Oh,
He's gone too.
I always thought he would have been an okay guy, but I suppose you never know.
Gibbs had interesting twists to him that they exposed before he sort of took off. And he's just on a long sabbatical.
Yeah, whatever.
So he's a bit of a deviant then.
Yeah, so what,
No,
it's like what 18 seasons now the thing's been on, something like that. Well, all the original characters except for McGee are gone.
Yeah, without the original cast, I don't think I'll bother picking up any of that.
Yeah,
new
pretty
season.
much after um, Cody DePablo, after she left, Tiva.
Yeah, I think I
And-
stopped watching it at that point too.
Yeah, me too, I
It
think.
was
And
fun.
Michael Weatherly left not too long after that. And
And see,
then
I held on till this year, and I just said it is not the same without Gibbs. It's just
of course not.
it's just a shadow of the old show, and it's that was the final straw for me. It was like I'm gone.
Yeah.
You got to
I mean,
admit,
it's
any
like-
show is hard to, after you hit season 2 or 4,
Yeah.
it's hard to keep it up. And you got to admit, some of those actors have got to be tired of playing the same character all the time.
Yeah. You'll never be
Well,
known for
Weatherly
anything
left.
else, no matter what you do. You'll
Yeah.
always be that person, that character.
Well,
Most-
yeah, but if you've been on the show for 13 years, you're set for life. You could go. You could turn your back on
Well,
acting.
it depends on your contract.
That is
You
true.
may not be getting
Yeah.
royalties on it.
And if you know anything about Hollywood contracts and Hollywood accounting, they
Yes,
did teach the mob some stuff.
The best description I've heard is that the most creative people in Hollywood are the accountants.
Definitely.
Yep.
Well, and the attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
Trust
Well,
me.
hey
I
guys,
actually knew
I'm gonna have to
somebody who-
bail because my aunt's not gonna stop giving me shit until I freaking do. So you guys
Alright.
have a fantastic show because I know you are going to have a freaking fantastic show. JC, welcome to the club. Love having you here. I love me some Lucius. And guys, like I said, I'll talk to y'all in 2 weeks.
Yep. Happy birthday, Jack.
Thank you, sir.
Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
happy birthday, Jack. Have a great day,
Thank you,
buddy.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm getting old.
All right. Well, yeah, the whole CSI thing, it reminds me of my biggest pet peeve for zombie movies. For some reason, in zombie movies, apparently, cleavage is an important part of the fighting uniform
Mm-hmm.
when
Well, And this is coming
Families
from the
on.
guy who wrote that cheerleaders book. Come on.
Have you
Yeah.
seen
Well,
Zombie
yeah,
Wars?
but you notice in my zombie series, they're completely covered. They're covered.
Wait,
in
but how many
body
more
armor.
are in yours?
Question.
What's
Have
that?
you, have you ever seen Zombievers?
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That was
Yeah.
freaking hysterical.
I
Oh,
thought it was
The only thing
yeah.
better was,
Yeah,
was
it-
listening to the shortened version of the song.
Oh,
You listen to the song, it tells the whole story.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, dear.
So anyway, murder. So Doc, why don't you tell us, Doc, what of all the death scenes you've read over the years, what's your favorite?
Um, I gotta give it to Agatha Christie. She had some brilliant deaths. And it's really bad you're asking this because I just watched this morning when I came back from working my shift from opening at Starbucks. I watched the Perot when he dies, and it was very, very frustrating to me. I've never watched it, and now I know why I haven't watched it. Uh, and unfortunately, I guess I've seen too many Perots. I knew what was coming before it happened, and it's like, no, this is what really came down, and it was, and I was like, yeah, I nailed that one. Usually, I can't nail it perfectly. But this one I did. It really, David Suchet just did a brilliant job performing as Perot.
Yeah.
And he, and I've seen like the Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express. I made it about an hour into it, and I couldn't. But Agatha Christie does.
Have you seen the one with Albert Finney?
Yes,
That one I like.
that was far better than Kenneth. There's a Aussie writer, Uphill. Arthur, I think his first name's Arthur, and he wrote in the 20s and 30s, and he had some very well done descriptions. But in the case of his book, people were already dead when his investigator, who is an Aboriginal, was just unheard of back then, stepped in. I don't know who kills really well. See, most of them are already dead. You know, like Mystery Road, which was a brilliant Aussie series. Everybody's dead when the book gets there. It's loosely based on the Uphill series about Boney. Boney Bonaparte was the name of the Aboriginal who was the detective. And I have to admit, I haven't read your series, so I can't say if you've had brilliant death scenes or not. I've read Hellspawn, and some
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, man, you keep saying that. That's a good damn book. It is. Because it's realistic. It isn't.
Yeah.
It isn't just. Let's go kill a bunch of zombies.
Yeah.
Zombie apocalypse happens. Everybody screams. Everybody kills a bunch of zombies. The end.
It does kind of go a little bit kill all the zombies after that, but yeah, book one's just hunker down and hide and hope for the best. And
it seemed very realistic about it.
Yeah, no, like I say, it's just, you know, it's just me and being my bonnet about it all the time. You know, I'd love to go back and tidy it up and rewrite it a little bit, but you know.
Well, that's what later books are for, you know.
Yeah.
You saw the problem from the beginning.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I was just trying to think of your question, Jeff. What deaths in books? I mean, I don't read a great deal of mystery, so I've got no real, you know, this person's death was intriguing, but you know,
how about Hamlet? I mean, you know, I can go to the classics.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I was never any good at school. I was an absolute pain in the backside. I used to play truant more than I used to go in. So my education was spotty, to say the least. But there's a guy, a character in the Necroscope series by Brian Lumley. He's a fox vampire called Canker Cannison, and basically when you go from the Necroscope our world to the vampire world, they're basically the vampiri. I don't know how they pronounce it, but they're sort of like the brutal vampire overlords. And Brian Lumley writes this crossbred dog vampire lord in such a way that you really, really start to like the guy. You know, all he's looking for is companionship, and he thinks he's found it amongst, you know, a species that does not have any companionship whatsoever. It's everyone out for everyone, and if they can kill you to get your belongings and your thralls and your your goods, they will do it. But yeah, when sort of Kanka Canis, and when he falls, it's but it's a dog again, isn't it? I always always root for the pets.
But that's good.
Yeah, but yeah,
You know.
no, that's a brilliant series. If you haven't read it, really good.
I've
Other
read-
than when he goes on about gadgets and ghosts and repeats that line about 9 million times throughout the books.
yeah, I think I read the first one years and years ago.
I would strongly advise do everything apart from the Lost Years. So Necroscope 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, Vampire World 1, 2, and 3, and then the Invaders, Avengers, and Defilers, the 3 final books. What's really upsetting is spoiler alert for anybody that's listening. Just turn off for a second. If you haven't read them by now, you're probably not going to. But at the end of the Avengers, the trilogy at the end, the world has fallen to the vampires. Our world has gone, and it's and I'd have loved for them to go into a little bit more detail and write more, from Ben Trask and the others after we've fallen. But he didn't, so it kind of just leaves it on that everyone's vampire now, including, spoiler alert, most of the E branch team.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I said,
that could be that Lungley just got tired of writing it.
exactly. I mean, it was 13 by the time he got to the end of it, so there's got to be some burnout.
Yeah, you get to the, even if you like the characters, you get sick of them
Yeah,
after a while.
Yeah, no matter how many people say, "Oh, what happens next? What happens next?" If you're not feeling what happens next to them, you've just got to leave them be for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is frustrating. I'd love to get Hellspawn finished, but sometimes I'll go a year between releases and I'll pop an Infernal or a Devoured World out simply because Kurt and that just aren't talking to me. They're just
And you can't force this stuff.
no. But I'd love to be able to.
If I'm forcing it, I'm not having fun. If I'm not having fun, the reader isn't gonna.
No, exactly.
That's why, Doc. This latest one is coming as slow as it is.
That's fine. But you started that other one as well.
Well, I started that other one because I wasn't sure how to begin it. The story is all in my head. It's a huge story. This is my supernatural thriller series based in World War II.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to begin it in such a way that made sense to the reader, because there is a huge amount of backstory that isn't necessary for me to tell the reader. I need to know it, but you guys don't. And it's a question of how much of this information do I put out there, and when do I put it out there?
Yeah.
So that's why I wrote those first 5 chapters, because that's how I do it with Doc.
Yeah.
I said 5 chapters at a time, and it works great. It gives it, and I give it a chunk of it. Doc reads it, gives me feedback, and I can move on. But I've been taking longer on this one because it's the last book in the series. Maybe not forever, but for a while. And I don't want to just phone it in. I don't want to force it. I don't want to not have fun with it. But after 750 million words, it's like, okay, how many times can I say this?
Yeah.
So it's got to give me a spark in order for it to give you a spark. So because I've read books that are deep into the series that the writer just thrown it in.
Yeah.
He just did it to get it done. I'm not going to do that. But anyway, I had a question for you, Doc. Coming from Australia as you do, what do you think of the Franny Fisher story?
Which ones?
Franny Fisher?
Oh, I actually like Bryony. It's set in a period. I know Melbourne really well, and it's set in a period that I was not alive back then, but I can appreciate because I know enough about Melbourne and what's surrounding Melbourne and what it was like back then. So to me, they all actually make sense to me. I've read many of the books, not all of them, and I do tape and watch all the movies or the shows, and I actually enjoy it. It's like, yep,
Yeah, I love the character,
yeah,
although there are definitely continuity issues.
yeah,
Because
that
she will be writing the story and she'll just decide, okay, this is what's going to happen in this one, so let's change Friday's history completely.
yeah. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, there are not nearly as many books as there are in the teleseries. And so I think they're just throwing things out there just to make it, just to make them. It's she's a popular character. There's that love interest in it with the detective,
Yeah,
and
that I thought that's the part I don't like about that series
but
because the books don't have that.
no, they don't. They don't indicate that at all. And it's like, really? But okay. But they've got to catch the modern person who's watching these older, probably the older individuals sitting home, retirees, housewives, and that gives you that spark going in there.
And also when it comes to screenwriting, there is it's very, very, very formulaic. I know I tried a couple of times and it's like, no. I want to go my own direction.
Reality has nothing to do with screenwriting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And and unfortunately, when it comes to screenwriting, you have, producers getting into the mix, directors, actors saying, "Oh, well, I think the character should be this way," and who cares what the writer did or intended? It's amazing that any of them even get done because of all the stuff that goes in.
No.
It's ridiculous. Just a description. You get 4 lines max to describe the Bates Motel, and it's off to the art. The guy that does the sets.
Yeah,
You have absolutely no control of anything.
Nope.
Yeah.
Usually, if you were to even write a screenplay, never sell it, always option it.
Mhm.
And usually it's, they'll tell you, okay, we have it now, we optioned it, we don't need you anymore, we'll do the rewrites. The rewrites will be done by somebody with a name, so by the time it even gets to, if it even gets to,
it's unrecognizable.
it's not your story anymore.
So this is part of the reason why the old "it's not like the book" comes about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, part of that is that you're looking at 2 different forms.
Yeah, and it's really hard to take a 60,000, 90,000 word book and cram it down into
90 pages.
Yeah.
90
45
pages, literally,
minutes
and with a
of
lot of space.
yeah.
Because if you don't do the format right, I mean, it's like, good grief. If it's like 25,000 words in those 90 pages, you're lucky.
Yeah.
And everything has to be visual. You can't just, you
Yep.
can't look inside somebody's
Mhm.
head. So,
Yep.
yeah, there is a lot lost in adaptation, but sometimes
For good reason sometimes.
Well, Well,
Although
it's
I'll
something
never forgive World War Z for what they put out.
Oh,
they could have done so much with that book.
I
So
know.
much with that book.
Well, I think
What-
they're filming a second one now. And it's
Oh
like,
God, I hope not. I hope not.
yeah, I think I saw something about that about 2 weeks ago. And I was like, really? Where can this go? I mean,
Yeah.
In the bin, straight in the bin.
What they
One
could
thing I am
do.
excited for, though, sorry to interrupt you, Jeff. There was a little teaser put out the other day, Night of the Living Dead 2, with the cast from Day of the Dead returning as a continuation of Day of the Dead. Laurie Cardell, and the two pilots.
Yep.
Hmm.
They're making a comeback, so I'm intrigued to see where that goes. Because obviously the film ends with them on the beach, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, World War Z, they need to make it into a series and actually put some
Yeah,
money into it.
they need to make it into a limited series and do it like a documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how it was
It
written. It
needs to
was written
follow
as a
exactly.
history.
Yeah, it needs to follow that.
Yeah. And that would be awesome. That would be incredible. That's one of my favorite zombie books. And the only resemblance to the book that the movie has is the title.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't they try to film some of the scenes from the book, like the shipyard and things like that? But I think they ended up just overspending massively and then just churned out that monstrosity.
And
I think
they would have been
tried to do
completely out of
something.
context if they'd done it.
Yeah,
oh,
I'm sure I read somewhere that they tried to do that scene and they filmed it and it just didn't work. Obviously, like you say, because it just wouldn't have fit in with what was actually put out with Brad Pitt in it.
yeah.
Now some books really can't be turned into movies. They can't. They tried it a couple of times with Kurt Vonnegut, and it never works.
No.
Because Vonnegut is so specific in the way he writes. It's black comedy, and the words are what makes it what it is. You don't have words on the TV screen. You got the visual stuff, and the visual stuff isn't what makes the story good.
Yeah.
And
It's
people
the
don't like
other
reading the
stuff.
subtitles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Tim
and
Robbins is another one.
Yeah.
They made a movie of what the hell is it? It's about the hitchhiker. I think it had Uma Thurman in it. And the book is great. It's awesome. But I mean, we're talking word porn here because of the way he writes. He just that is what it is. If you like words, Tim Robbins. Read Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
Has
But,
anybody read the Reacher books? I haven't read them yet, but
I
a
have.
lot of
I have.
people
Yeah.
have really been. I've watched the series, loved the new series, and
Love
people
the
have
new
actually
series.
said that it is a really faithful adaptation of the first
Yeah.
book. Is
Yes.
that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so they can do it when they want to, when the material's right.
Yes. Apparently.
I just
Well,
love the first
you
5 minutes
look
where
at
he doesn't say anything, but he just
um
menaces everyone.
yes.
The wife beater just gets crushed. He
And
shrivels like a snail under salt.
all
Yeah,
he does is
love it.
look at him.
Exactly.
Well,
Love
when
it.
you're that big, that's pretty much all you have to do.
Exactly.
But this series is so much better than when
Tom
Tom
Cruise.
Cruise tried to
Oh,
make them. It's
5
like,
foot 2.5 Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise is a midget.
Yeah.
Jack Reacher's a giant.
yes.
You got
And he
like
was,
what,
he was
6'5"?
always supposed to be really big. Yeah. And
Mhm.
what's Tom Cruise is what, 5'5" or 5'7"? He's
If
very
that.
short.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
really short. They did one series. I wish they would. I wish they would try again. Is the Prey novels? John Sanford,
Okay.
Not
Rules
familiar.
of Prey, and they're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
They're great. It's this Minnesota detective cop
Yeah.
who just it's hardcore. It's like Raymond Chandler would be if he wrote these days.
Yeah.
So it's a lot grittier. There's a lot more profanity. There's a lot more violence, but it's that kind of no
Hmm.
holds barred detective stories. And they made one of those into a movie with Gibbs. They with Gibbs as the main character, and it sucked.
Okay.
It absolutely sucked.
That's not one to look out for on Prime then.
No,
Okay.
but the books are awesome.
Yeah, the
It's
one
like
series I can watch over and over is Bosch. Have you seen that?
Yes.
I-
Yes.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Considering
I watched the first season and part of the second one. And it's the relationship stuff that he has with that. I forget the details of the one the cop, rookie cop
Hmm.
that he has a
Oh yeah,
relationship.
yeah.
That just didn't do it for me. Everything else was great, but they spent too much time on that relationship. I thought and it just kind of.
But so many of that genre go off in that direction. If you think about it, I mean, go back to the original moonlighting. We always have to bring in this romance, and it's like, why? I really sort of enjoy not knowing, if you're going to this. I'm talking about the one with Bruce Willis, and I can't
Yeah.
remember what her name was, but I just sort of like it. All I know is her name was Maddie in the series. Just sort of hanging there. It's why do we have to have
Yeah.
sex, and why do we have to have all this, and I understand it sells things better and stuff like that, but it's like sometimes that edge where you really don't know what they're doing is actually more fun, and it's heaps more fun.
Mhm.
You've got
Well,
that
it is,
attraction and that, but it hasn't been consummated.
well, the problem is that once it is in TV land, once it's consummated, that becomes the story.
Yep.
That relationship becomes a story. I'm
Yeah.
sure I would imagine you've noticed this in the zombie series. There was quite a bit of romance early on, but once those were consummated, pretty much that's okay. That's done. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake they can make. They do the same thing with Castle.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Once the relationship was consummated, boom, bones. Once the
Yeah,
relationship was
exactly.
consummated,
Yeah.
boom.
That's the
That's
two series I was
Yeah,
just thinking
the
of.
term is jump the shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they do the same thing with Ellen DeGeneres' original show, Ellen.
Okay,
It was a funny sitcom. It was a really funny sitcom until she came out as gay. And then it became all about Ellen as gay.
Yeah.
It became one dimensional. And if
Yep.
nobody wants to see that shit, it's boring.
Yeah, no, I agree with Bones and Castle. I really enjoy both those series, but it's exactly as you say. Once the relationship clicks, that is it going forward, and there's no getting over that step having been taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd never, because I quite enjoy it when they do get together. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's part of one of the tropes that they have to put out for the general public. But yeah, I've never really thought about it in that way before. But everything after that point is completely circling around
the relationship.
focal
Yeah,
point.
it's better to end a show when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
That
move
would be
on
the perfect point, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
or move on from it. I mean, we've all, I'm sure, had that first sign of excitement at the beginning of a relationship. It's great. I mean, once that's passed and you're in a relationship, it becomes part of your life. It doesn't become your entire life.
Yeah.
But Hollywood treats it as if that's it.
Yeah.
You're together now. It's all about you being together.
Yeah.
Why bother?
Mm.
Well,
You
that
know,
would, in real life, that would drive me insane.
Mhm.
If my life became all about the relationship, I'd just bye. See ya. I'm leaving.
Well, Hollywood gets a lot of things wrong, and that's one of them.
Yeah, it's the fairy tale that doesn't ever exist in real life, isn't it? You know, you after so many years together, you just become your best friends.
Yeah, and
hopefully.
that's what you hope for. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, that's the Hollywood thing. They've got to attract the women, the hopeless romanticists, and it's like, do you understand? Most of us know that isn't the real world. We
Mhm.
want something that isn't fantasy. We want some fantasy because obviously we wouldn't be watching the telly or going to a movie or whatever or streaming it. But we want some reality in there, and the reality is, yeah, great, so we've been dating for 6 months. You are not my life. I still have to get up at 4 a.m. and go to work. I still have to go teach until 8 or 9 o'clock at night. That's my world, and it's not going to change. I'm not suddenly going to meet some man and fall madly in love and give up everything just for him, or some woman, or some
Yeah.
zombie, or whatever it would be. I mean, let's,
And it's usually with somebody who is
inappropriate.
always, very inappropriate.
Oh
Definitely.
yeah. If it becomes your life, it's because you're being abused. You're in an abusive relationship. I
Yes.
mean, but
Yes.
there are ways to give the romantics what they want, but it's subtle. You have a scene where they're talking about, okay, this is going on in the case, and there's just like one little shot of one of them taking the other's hand,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. That's all you need. You see it's there, move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Get on with the main story.
Yes.
Yeah, which should be not the romance, the mystery, the
Yeah.
murder, the
Yeah.
detective story, whatever it is. That's what
Yeah.
they should be dwelling on. But of course, it also blows 15 minutes of showtime every single show, and you don't really have to write it very much, depending on the time and the
Which
place.
is lazy.
They just put them in
You're,
bed,
you're,
and okay, that's
you're phoning it in.
And
Yeah.
of course, once you leave 20 minutes for commercials, you only have 20 minutes left after that.
true.
Exactly. And murder, to bring it back to that, it's kind of the same way. You like the torture porn kind of murder movies where it's just like all blood and guts and just it's nothing but like Saw.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just
That's another good Aussie series, by the way. Let me just point out.
Well, those
Really?
don't really
Oh,
do
yeah.
anything for me.
Okay.
Yeah, the first ones were done. The first one was done on a shoestring as an indie, with some Aussie backers that they were able to find, and all of the characters in it. I'm pretty sure most of the characters that were in it actually volunteered their time.
Yeah. I must admit, I enjoy Saw because I treat it, I treat it as it is. It is just murder porn.
Yeah.
It's like Hostel. They're abysmal.
Yes,
But
exactly.
it's 20 minutes where you can just switch your brain off. Oh, look, her eye's hanging out.
Yep.
Oh, he's taking a blowtorch. Oh, that's I draw the line at the human caterpillar though. That is just oh my god.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's tedious. You can have something like Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
That was great.
Those are great murders. Those are absolutely great murders.
I've got to
But
read
the
the
rest
books.
of the story is even better than the murders.
It's
So
cerebral, isn't it? It's mindful, but sometimes, I don't want to think. I just want to see blood splatter.
Well, and some of that is good. Some of that is good,
Sometimes.
but it's like the old action movies from the '80s. It's like, we're in a hole in the plot. Let's blow something up.
You can't tell me that Arnie killing an entire island full of soldiers while wearing very little to show off his muscles and never running out of bullets. It's real life, Jeff. You can't.
Oh,
I
well,
mean,
of course it is.
you've only been in combat yourself. You know this is real.
It's absolutely realistic. Absolutely, yeah. Come on.
I used to
Yeah, so
love all that
sometimes you
stuff.
just need to
Still
turn your
do.
logic brain off and
Yeah, I
when you're
love all
watching
that
some of
stuff.
these
Well,
things.
Seriously.
if you want to turn your logic brain off, I've told Jeff my favorite new series is All of Us Are Dead, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is, they've and it's actually really good because what I'm seeing on Netflix, they've actually properly dubbed it in English. And I'm just like, wow, I can hardly tell that this was actually in another language to begin with.
Hmm.
And it's Train to Busan multiplied by 30, and it's like, or 40, and granted, I'm only up through 8 in the series, and there are 4 more. But I'm excited. Every week I allow myself to, and I guess they're filming the next series now.
And what's the name of it?
All of us are
All
dead.
of us are dead.
It's action. It's coming of age. So you get the angst from all these high school students, and yet I guess it's Korean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
South Korea.
there are no holds back. I mean, it's like, whoa. They're not afraid to have blood and gore everywhere. I mean, it's great because their censors aren't like ours. And when you're making movies and you've got the movie house standing over you, and you can't do that. And it actually has a storyline that makes sense so far.
Yeah.
And I bet that all the characters actually use their brain. You don't have that one character that's a smart one, everybody else is dumb.
Oh no, they're all different levels, and it's I find it very intense. It's sort of like, oh yeah, it's like I don't know, it's very intense in what they do, and it's, wow, this is what I picture a zombie apocalypse to be. Except that I would be there with my Uzis and my swords and saying, yeah, come on, dudes. My
Guns
AR.
run out of bullets, swords do not.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why I have swords as well. Trust me. I've had them for a long time. But, my ARs, and I've got a lot of rounds. So I'd last a little while at least. But, of course, I live in the heart of Denver, which is not where you want to be when there's any sort of apocalypse.
No, God, no.
And it's like,
God, no.
why do you go to a hospital, you fools? I mean, that's where anybody who gets sick.
Exactly. Ground zero.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the best us Brits can hope for is some cutlery.
Yeah.
That's all we got. Some cutlery and some flowery language.
Maybe a cricket bat.
Yeah, the problem is they're not built very well, Jeff. They snap at the handle. They're not. The handle is generally not actually like a baseball bat that you can rely on.
Really?
The cricket bat handle's like tapered into the actual bat itself. So a couple of plunks, and you'd be left with the handle, and you'd be zombie food. So I think England would go dark within about 12 hours. But we'd swear a lot before we did go out. I mean, my only complaint after watching All of Us Are Dead is it probably, in my opinion, it probably could have been cut down by 2 or 3 episodes and just a little bit more condensed.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say anything more than that. But the Koreans are absolutely smashing it. You've got Hellbound, Squid Game.
Yeah.
I won't count Train to Busan 2 Peninsula because I thought that was absolutely dire. But Train to Busan was phenomenal.
Yes.
You know, in terms of zombie films, it's one of the only ones that I've been kind of like just wrapped on the screen for the entire thing.
There was one that came out a couple of years ago. Oh, I forget the name of it, but it's about this. He's an Asian American character who goes into his office building, and it's like some kind of gas is released, and for 12 hours, it's just all hell breaks out. People are just ripping each other to shreds. At the end of the 12 hours, everything goes back to normal again. I forget the name of it. It's
You're gonna have to find that for us.
Yeah, let me. It's like Rampage or something like that.
Okay. Another series that's just dropped on Netflix. It might have been there a while. I've only just seen it. La Révolution. It's a French take on the French Revolution, but it is all about zombies.
Oh wow!
You know, the beheading comes from that's how you kill the zombies, and that's really well dubbed as well. You know, because obviously it's French series, but 8 parts. But that's really good. I'd highly recommend anybody. It doesn't focus too much on the zombie side of things. It's not like, you know, Train to Busan and things like that. But I don't regret watching that at all. That was quite good.
I kind of like the zombie stories, zombie movies anyway. That aren't that the zombies are there. They're like the inciting incident. They're the the elephant in the room, but they're not the whole story. Something like Shaun of the Dead isn't really about zombies.
Yeah.
The zombies are there, and it kind of drives the whole story, but it's not the story itself. The story is about those
sort of
characters.
like Zombies.
Yeah.
You know, that was fun.
For a low budget movie, yeah.
What was that story? I missed that one.
Zombies. You haven't seen Zombies?
I must admit, I don't think I have.
And Zombies 2, and I think are there 3?
One wasn't enough.
There's a third one, Aquarium of the Dead.
Oh my god!
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Now that one was wretched.
That one was absolutely
Aquarium
wretched.
is not worth it. The first
I
one
actually interviewed the director.
Wasn't bad.
I actually interviewed the director of those 3.
Oh,
really?
okay.
And even you could tell that third one had such a low budget. I mean, Zombies, the first one, you could tell it was a low budget movie, but they did a good job of it. And what he said, each successive movie had a lower budget than the last one.
Well, wasn't the Aquarium a sci-fi flick, which would sort of explain it? I mean, think about.
Well, they all were.
Were
they were all the Asylum, I think. Which is
just looking it up to see if I've seen it or not. No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
Judging by the score, I don't think I'm going to either.
No.
Yeah, Arsenic and Old Lace. That's a very old film.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, think about Sharknado. I mean, the first Sharknado was fun.
Yeah.
The second one, you could already see that it wasn't as refined. And by the time I guess they made the fifth one, it was like, this is torture. Can we just get it over with?
Kind of like Fast and the Furious, but now they're up to Fast and the
9.
Furious.
Well, the only
73,
reason that they're even making those things is Vin Diesel has the cash to fund them.
Yeah. And they're probably still making a packet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but they just get silly now. You know, the first few were gritty and realistic. You know, and and then they're taking on drug cartels, and then they're taking on nuclear submarines. And don't get me wrong, I've watched all of them and I've enjoyed watching them, but the disconnect, it's the logic sensors
How
turned
do
off again.
submarines and cars go together?
Oh, they didn't, because things blow up. They really didn't mix very well.
Okay.
But yes,
Well, it's the same thing.
I'm all for solving a puzzle, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of
Okay.
just hammering the piece into place, and it really doesn't belong there. But
Yeah.
my God, that piece is going in.
Well, it was the same way with the Die Hard movies.
Yeah.
The original Die Hard, which came from a book,
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
at least seemed like it maybe, yeah, okay, this is possible. But each
Sort of.
successive Die Hard movie became more and more just absurd.
Was it number 4 where he's escaping a Harrier jump jet in a truck? And
He has something, who knows?
but one and two, you got to turn a couple of your sensors off.
Yeah.
But 1 and
Yeah.
2, then 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance and this, that, and the other. It's like,
And then A Good Day to Die Hard.
yeah, it's like,
Shut the hell up.
yeah,
Go away.
enough.
Well, it was the same with Jaws. I mean, let's go way back. I mean,
Yeah.
I can remember when the first Jaws came out, I was petrified. I
Mhm.
lived in Miami. I was in the ocean all the time. And for those of you that are viewing this and may not be anywhere close to as old as I am, the special effects in that movie, when it was made, were great. I mean, it would never fly today, but back
Well,
then.
it didn't really fly then because they didn't actually work. The shark didn't actually work, which Spielberg used to his advantage. Because you don't really see the shark that much in Jaws,
No.
and it was a result of the fact that the mechanical shark kept breaking down.
When you
But
don't
it's
see
still-
them heaps in Jaws 2 either.
Right.
But after that, the whole, by the time you got to 4 and 5 and whatever, it was like,
Well, these movies that come from books, which that's where most of them used to come from, is
right.
books, not comic books, actual novels. Those usually end up pretty good. But then, Hollywood, the search for more money.
Yeah.
It just, each one becomes more and more ridiculous or they go the other way, which there's one that's been bouncing around in Facebook recently called The Relic.
Yes, I know that movie.
Yeah. Now, the movie isn't bad, but the book that it comes from is really good. And even more, the second book, which is a direct follow-up of the first, is awesome. But the movie made the second book impossible.
In what way? Because I really enjoyed it. I haven't read the book, but I enjoyed the movie.
Well, it killed off one of the most important characters in the second book. Actually, two of the
Okay.
most important characters that are in the second book. And it didn't even have Pendergast, the FBI agent.
Yeah, Pendergast made that series.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But even that, 17 books down the road is just.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I have to admit, I will watch movies just to see the monster. And if the monsters, it could be the terriblest movie. If the monster looks good, I'm good with it. If the monster sucks, I'm done.
Yeah, but sometimes the monster's fun. I mean, I'm a huge B grade movie or C grade movie freak. I'm like Sven Gulli. Every Saturday night, there's like anywhere from 20 to 100 of us watching it and posting pictures of us watching it. I'm horrible at that. And some of those are just, they are so bad. It's like, really, why am I sitting through this? But they're all,
There's this one from back in the 50s where the monster, I forget the name of it, it's like it conquered the earth or something like that. It's a cone. It's a triangle cone with
Was
teeth.
it the Day of the Monoliths?
No, it was,
Was it?
I don't know. It had like Jack Palance or somebody in it,
Okay.
or I don't know, it was somebody. But it was they just the monster is just so over the top ridiculous. They
Is it as
ruined the movie.
ridiculous as a tire though?
Or
Was
or
that-
the praying mantis that they thaw out in the north at the North Pole and somehow flies south. It's like did you know how many people I when it comes to science fiction, you would think somebody would at least have passed basic high school science.
Well,
No.
back
What's the fun in that?
to be fair, back in the 50s, most people didn't know squat about science.
Mm.
The audiences nowadays are far more science savvy.
They still
used
screw
to
it up.
Oh, they
The-
still screw it up.
yeah,
I especially love, speaking of the asylum, all those disaster movies. Oh my God. It's like science? Huh? What's science? I have no idea.
Oh, I love all
spaceship
them.
that goes whoosh. That's another one.
Day After Tomorrow, Armageddon. I love all that
Yeah.
guff. I
Well,
love it.
Those are the cream of
They're
the crop.
fun.
They're the cream of the crop. The ones you get on the Sci-Fi Channel
Yeah,
are just
life's too short to turn on Sci-Fi Channel,
oh
Jeff.
my
I'm sorry.
Well, the Sci-Fi Channel is absolutely horrendous.
and there's
My,
no
my,
science.
my husband loves his science fiction, but he
Mhm.
likes science fiction based at least a little bit in reality.
Yeah,
You know, does the science, could it be plausible?
yeah. Does this
He
film
absolutely
make me
hates it
dumber at the end of
when
it?
they've got rid of, lizards running around the snow without even a protective suit.
Yeah.
or a Sharknado. I mean, let's face it. What's the potential for?
Well, that was supposed to be silly.
I wish I'd have
I
been.
hope so.
Probably more likely than some of the stuff that comes out.
I wish I'd have been a fly on the wall at the original pitch meeting for that movie. When somebody first pitched Sharknado.
You know there were plates and plates of cocaine.
Oh God.
You know it
Cocaine
was
and
snowing in that room.
hot
It was
brownies
snowing.
hashish and
It's
just everything.
yeah. They came to like 3 or 4 days later, and they'd made Sharknado while on this stuff. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
what helped with that movie was social media and people saying how bad it was, so it became a cult classic.
Mhm.
So,
No,
and
there
you gotta
are-
admit, horrible movies can be really, really good. Like look at Plan 9 from Outer Space.
That right there.
That was
Brilliant.
that was a train wreck. You couldn't stop watching.
It's so bad it's good.
Yes. Did you know that the guy they got to finish Bela Lugosi's parts in that was his dentist?
Yes. Yes. Because Bela Lugosi died.
Huh.
But-
Yeah, that was
no.
supposed to be his comeback movie, and no.
Yeah. Well, by that point, he was a morphine junkie. And that's what killed him. But, he was so, poor Bela. That's such a sad story.
Mm. Yeah, I didn't know that about him. I should do because he's one of the icons of Dracula.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, a lot of the icons, so many of them, when you look at what happened to them,
Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah.
essentially drank himself to death.
Yeah.
Mm.
and it's sad, and it makes you wonder. I don't know. That's why I don't like looking at biographies, because you either find out your hero is an absolute ass,
Yeah.
or you find out that their end of life was absolutely miserable because of whether they couldn't handle the fame, or people took advantage of them, or
I mean, you kind of. I always used, when I was a kid, I want to be a movie star because I want to be, have the girls and have millions. But when you actually find out what those kids, growing up, and even the adults the pressures. You know, you had the guy that played Reacher. I was reading about his mental health battles, and you know, this is a guy that's 6'5", 250 pounds, you know, an absolute monster of a man, and even he's got his demons, you know, and the pressures of Hollywood, and you know, not knowing where the next gig's coming from, and all that kind of stuff. It's actually brutal, horrible.
And you get the paparazzi in the mix, and they're legalized stalkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I could probably count child actors who made it into adulthood as actors without becoming train wrecks on one hand.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Jodie Foster, Ron Howard,
Drew Barrymore did okay.
Drew, she became somewhat of a train wreck. Kurt Russell. That's about it.
Yeah, you got Corey Haim and all the ones from the Lost Boys, and they were.
Yeah, exactly.
Not good stuff. On the subject of murder, you know, so some of the people that did that stuff to them, I think, you know, let's get the ARs and go down and.
Yeah, let's shoot John Lennon so I can be famous.
Yeah, but no, like I say, it's funny how the veneer of things, when you actually start scratching away at it, what actually lies beneath is massively different to what you imagined it was going to be. You know, think it's just going to be all beach parties, and then get up the next day and go and film, and then beach party again, and then film, and it's more like, you know, you wake up in rehab, and you know you've got a drug problem or you've got a drink problem, and you break up with this person, you break up with that person. I mean, one thing that astonished me, you know, we were going to talk about it the other day, but we didn't really get into it. It was how Will Smith slap.
Yeah.
When you actually dig into the relationship that he goes through with Jada, you think you kind of imagine these people have the fantasy relationships of love, and it's like you've got the most twisted, toxic relationship I think I've ever heard of.
Well, look at what's going on now between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can't tell. It sounds like Johnny Depp has been painted as the bad guy in the piece, but the more I see about Amber Heard, it's like that woman is a psycho.
If some of the stuff that's been testified under oath as true is true, she's a psycho, absolute psycho. But you know, when you're under that much pressure and you're with someone that's under that much pressure, is it any wonder people snap?
Well, plus you've got to be like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. How can anybody have a relationship under that much scrutiny?
Yeah, everything's analysed, isn't it?
The
way you walk out of a restaurant, you know, and you're not holding hands, and they look like they're in a bit of an argument while over dinner, and you know the stories blow up the next day when they're probably just having a chat about what's for dinner the next day.
Yeah.
You know, it's what's the Jamie Lee Curtis meme where she's just sat having an afternoon tea with someone in the front, and she's finger wagging and she's all angry. You know, you can't do anything without being pictured.
Yeah.
And then that is immediately put out there forever.
Well, and the paparazzi purposely go for the worst possible picture. They will put your worst face forward. They will crush you.
Yeah. And a lot of people enjoy that, which is why they do it. If we didn't reward them for it, it would die and dry up overnight. But you know, this goes back to your thing about the beta readers. You just say this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. People just like misery, and they like to see other people going through misery. It's like, dude, just try and bring people up. You know, maybe that's just me, but
no, it's not just you. I'm right there with you, buddy.
Yeah, it'd be a whole lot nicer world if people just work together and try to make everyone a bit happier. but I'm still not watching Zombies. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the IMDb page now, and I'm not going to do it. I'm not going there. I might do it. It's actually on Prime. I've just noticed that on Prime.
Yeah, the first one isn't bad, although the kid in that movie is just so annoying. I wanted to see that little girl just shredded by a zombie.
A little blonde girl.
Yes,
She's in the header
I
picture on there.
wanted to see her shredded by
Yeah.
the zombies.
But didn't you feel that way about the kids in Jurassic Park as well?
Oh God, I'd have fed them straight to the dinosaurs.
Yeah, it was just.
I mean, you can't kill little kids, but
They weren't as bad as the ones in the newer Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Jurassic World, yeah.
You know, the two boys in that, I would have tied them down in the Tyrannosaur pit. I would have saved the goat to put them, in there, and I would have let Goatface go.
I think the only movie I recall that they killed the kid was Alligator. That was
yeah.
that's dating myself.
Well,
That's another one for me to look up on
they kill them
IMDb.
off in series all the time. I mean, it's Walking Dead. It's like you can't kill these characters. It's the comic book. It's always their stories, and
Yeah.
not only did they kill off Rick, but then they killed off his son, and it's like,
Well, pretty much the first thing Rick does in that series is kill a kid.
yeah,
There's a zombie girl.
yeah, there's a zombie kid. That's
He
right.
shoots her. That's one of the first things he does after he gets out of the hospital.
Yeah, it's quite twisted, really.
Well, that's horror. Horror
Exactly.
is not happy.
No,
No, but we still constrain ourselves, don't we? That's why the dogs and the cats never die, because even we've got our limits.
Yes.
And we've been threatened with bodily violence by our readers if we ever dare do harm the dogs and the cats. So I'm not risking it. I'm not taking that chance.
no, they'll probably kill you. I mean, I just can't even imagine somebody killing off a cat. I mean, I could see the dogs dying.
I'm the opposite.
In Walking Dead, they shot that pack of dogs.
Yeah, you have to admit when it comes to dogs, well, it's usually the owners that I don't like.
Yeah,
they know the truth.
It's not the dog's fault usually.
Realistically, in these situations, the dogs would get themselves killed. The cats would just hiss and spit, scratch, and then run. The dogs would be going for
Climb the
loving.
nearest tree.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the cats wouldn't. Yeah, cats are nobody's fault, but dogs would be there just dead. Okay.
Yeah, or it'd be just the opposite. Their owner their human would be under threat, and the dog would just launch itself.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so it dies saving the
cats
human.
the cats would just wait until you're a corpse and then
the cats would just
on your corpse.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
That's all good
but
fun.
anyway, all right, we got 5
Isn't that
minutes left, so let's have some last minute thoughts. Let's start with Doc. Last minute thoughts.
Ooh, kill him. I want blood and guts. I want blood and guts. Yeah. But then, I just don't kill the animals. And another really good murder mystery, by the way, is The Brick from 2005. It's sort of in the line of, I don't know, a Humphrey Bogart sort of movie from the 40s with all high school kids, and blend that into a Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
Interesting.
It's yeah. It was
It's like Bugsy Malone meets, Pulp Fiction.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Okay. With less
You
ball
know,
gags.
yeah, but no zombies, and I admit it.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, PC.
What was the question again? Sorry.
Last minute thoughts. Say anything.
Just having fun. Just have fun with whatever. There's so many good stories out there. There's some that are you just need to sit back with popcorn and laugh at and heckle. And then there's others that I don't know, like Godsford Park. It's like, why did this guy get killed twice? Poisoned and stabbed.
You've got to make sure.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at it.
It was the Russian one that got Rasputin, was it?
Yeah, Rasputin.
Stabbed, poisoned, hanged, drowned, burned,
Yeah,
thrown into space.
Yep.
Just
Well, it
it's
wasn't,
like,
quite, it wasn't quite
whoa.
that bad, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like
They couldn't.
They
They had a
poisoned
hard
him.
time killing that guy.
They poisoned him, and that didn't work. So they stabbed him, and he got away from it. So they shot him, and then a couple of days later, they found him floating in the frozen river.
yeah, that's a real grudge there, isn't it? Let's be honest. You know,
Yeah.
that's a you've crossed me, and yeah, I'm gonna finish you off one way or the other. But no, in terms of one of the things, going back to exactly what we were saying a minute ago about the Walking Dead series, because I haven't read the graphic novels, but from what I'm hearing, they kill off people quite rapidly. Whereas, do we as writers get into, because I'm a bit guilty of it myself, of having the immortals. I have killed characters off, but there are characters that I've kind of made them untouchable, and I'm going to have to undo that, and start a cull to some degree. So maybe a topic for another time, Jeff. Do we become too attached to our characters? Do we use them as a crutch, and we don't want to get rid of them because they've been with us so long and we're familiar with them? I know I do. I know I have. And The Walking Dead, you knew there was no sense of dread, because at the time, as they were going through the first few seasons, Daryl's not going to die. Carol's not going to die. Rick's not. And anything that they then put on the screen or we put on the page from that is going to take away from we know they're going to get through it. So, okay.
Yeah, but then you get that person like Negan who comes in and kills Glenn so dramatically.
Exactly.
It was like,
yeah. Up to that point, you're kind of like, oh, and then bop, oh,
yeah.
That renewed my interest. I gave up after Alpha. I'd
already given up.
Yeah, I did watch that, but as I say, it's like I say, deaths are necessary, but I got to the point where I'm a little bit reluctant, and I need to undo that mindset. I need to kill people.
And sometimes you just, even though you have a character that's a favorite, sometimes you have to get rid of them to move the story forward.
Exactly.
I've had to do that several times with some of my books.
Yeah, I'm going to have to.
It's usually one of my favorites.
Well, you gotta kill off some of them, because otherwise there's no jeopardy.
Yeah.
Well, it's that there can be only one. If you take it back to Highlander, in the end, there can be only one. That's it.
Yeah.
Although the mark of a true horror story is there's no happy ending. Everybody dies.
Yep.
I just haven't quite gone there yet.
No, me and the good lady wife watched the Skeleton Key again last night.
Yeah.
Oh God, not Emma Thompson.
No.
But yeah, once again, spoiler alerts. If you haven't seen it by now, you're probably not going to. Emma Hudson, maybe Emma Hudson. But yeah, the good guys lose, and at the end of it, you kind of just like
Kate Hudson.
Kate Hudson. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like the baddies win, and you're like, okay, how's this going to be undone? Credits roll. Oh.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that really stay with you long after, the happy ending and the happy ending.
Like the movie version of The Mist.
Oh,
Yes.
that's all right.
Oh,
That was an excellent ending.
Yeah, I'm still in therapy.
Oh yeah,
from
it was.
that was 20 years.
I hated that ending.
You're in therapy from it, but man, that's a great ending.
Yeah.
It made sense
It's
because you've lost all
completely.
hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
and
that's what makes it
brought the
worse.
whole story home in one decisive moment. Boom,
Yeah,
and you'll never forget that story.
no.
True.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we have come to the end of this. Thanks to everybody who showed up. One bit of shameless self-promotion. My very first newsletter is launching tomorrow. And all I'll say about it is it isn't your average newsletter.
Congratulations. I still haven't got anything like that set up. So
It's the first. I finally just got around to doing it after all these years.
Useless at marketing. I really am.
I've gone into it in very small stages.
I haven't even dipped a toe in yet, Jeff. I'm at the edge of the pool, and I've got one leg up, and I'm just about to touch the water, but it looks a bit cold, and I'm not going to lie, I don't really want to get my toe wet, so I might just take my foot back out and go back and sit on the sun lounger again and just write a bit more.
There you go.
Whatever works.
Thanks to the panel today, and happy birthday, Jack.
Yeah,
thanks
happy
to
birthday,
Tim Brooks
buddy.
for all his great comments, and Angel. And thanks to everybody who's watched and will watch. And this will be posted on YouTube, so watch it there. Hit subscribe. It's painless. It doesn't cost you anything. And the more subscribers we get, the more cool features we can use. So,
if I'm not wrong, you've got to say, smash that bell and subscribe button. There's something about smashing the button that triggers something in somebody's mind. Because
take a sledgehammer to that son of a bitch, man.
Exactly. Every YouTube video I watch, it is smash that bell and subscribe button. Every single one of them. So you're going to have to start chucking that tagline in there, Jeff.
All right, we'll do. In the meantime, we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Adios.
Thanks everyone.
Everybody.
See you soon.